Hello there, you beautiful people, and welcome to our very first project. I hope you're excited. In this project, we're going to be making a health potion for a video game. That's right, we're officially game developers. High five. So the scenario is, we have a character, who I guess kind of looks like this, who has some health. Let's say he has 45 points. We imagine that this character has walked over a health potion, and the health potion magically increases their health by a random amount. I guess in this case, quite a lot. But the game also has 3 difficulty settings: easy, medium, and hard. Now, depending on what difficulty is selected, the amount of health that the person gets from the potion will change, and this will be less on higher difficulties. So in this lecture, we're going to be using variables and numbers to create the functionality required for this health potion to work, and we're also going to use Python's random module to help us build a random number generator. By the end of the lecture, you should have a rock-solid understanding of how numbers are used in computer programs to make things work behind the scenes, and you'll also know how to make a random number generator in Python. This lecture is going to tie together a lot of what we've covered so far and should be a really valuable learning experience, so I hope you're excited. Oh, and make sure to follow along with me for maximum learning. We have a lot to do, so let's boot up Idle and get into it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to need to do is create a new script to hold all our code. So I'm going to go up here to the File tab, press New File, and we're going to see this thing here. I'm going to save it on the desktop in my Python Bible folder, and I'm going to call it health.py. Now make sure you remember the .py file extension when you're following along. So let's maximize this, and we're good to go. Right, now that we've done that, the first thing we're going to want to do is give our character some health. Health is a rather complicated topic conceptually, as I'm sure doctors will tell you, so we need to think of a way that we can represent health in a simple enough way that a computer can understand it. I know, we can use a number. Health is going to be a whole number in this game, so we're going to want to use the integer data type, because that's what we use for whole numbers. We'll obviously want to store the player's health somewhere and refer to it and update it later. So for this, we're going to need to create a variable called health, and we'll need to give it a certain value. Let's say the player's health starts at 50. Here's a micro challenge for you to test what you really learned in the last section. I want you to pause this video and create a variable called health and give it the value of 50. Go ahead and pause this video now, create the variable called health, and then unpause the video to see if we did it the same way. So how'd you get on? Did you manage it? The way that I do it is I'd type health equals 50. Now if you got the same as me, then congratulations! You're well on your way to understanding variables and numbers in practice, which is brilliant. So now what we've done is, we've managed to create a representation of the player's health using a variable called health. The value that health has starts at 50, but this number's going to change as the player gains health from our potion. Now our potion is going to give the player a random amount of health. The amount of health it's going to give them is going to be a random number between 25 and 50. Now we don't really want to create the code required to generate a random number from scratch, which I understand is quite a complicated task. The good thing is, we don't need to. Python has a built-in module that we can use, called the random module, which can generate random numbers for us. The way that we use Python libraries is to import them. You usually do all of your imports at the top of Python scripts, so let's go up there and import the random module. Let's move this down. All we've got to do is type import, which you can see goes yellow, and then the name of the module. Seeing as we're importing the random module, we're just going to type import random. And say when I save the file, that's going to allow it when it runs for Python to import that file. So perfect. One thing that you should notice is the way that the import word here went yellow. This is Idle's helpful way of showing us that import is an important word in Python, or a keyword, and this colour highlighting can be useful when checking for spelling mistakes. So let's say, for example, I forgot the R, and I put import. You can tell that now that it's gone black, which would let me know that potentially I've made a problem, instead of because I was expecting it to be yellow. So let's have a look at the Python random module and what it makes available to us. One way to do this is we can open up the Help tab inside of Idle, and click on this Python docs link, or you can press the F1 key on your keyboard for a shortcut. Either way, we're going to see a window that looks something like this pop up, and this contains all the Python documentation. This documentation details all the built-in modules and functions that are available with Python and other useful pieces of information. So it's a great resource. Now at the top here, as we're looking for a random module, we're going to click Modules. And here's an alphabetical list of all the modules, which is quite convenient for us to browse. Now as we're looking for the random module, let's click the letter R here and see what comes up. Awesome, the R's not that long, and you can see random is right at the top, so let's click on that. And this has opened up the documentation for the random module. As you can see in here, we have all sorts of useful information, which you can browse through if you wish, but to save some time, I'm just going to show you the randint function. So when I browse to that, here it is. So random.randint. So this function will give you a random integer. Okay, and it gives you the information here on how it works. It's going to return a random integer, what they're going to call n, such that n is between a and b, but it can be equal to both of them. So it's probably a bit easier if I show you what this is in practice. Let me just show you how this works. So let's head over to the shell. Where's the shell? Let's type it in here, don't I? Let's open up the shell. This is different to our script, by the way. This is just the raw Python shell. If I type import random, okay, that's worked. That's fine. We haven't got any error. Now I want the randint function. So for that to work, I have to type the module name, then a full stop or a period, and then the function that I want to use. So random dot randint, and let's say I put, I don't know, 10 and 20. Okay, so Python has given me a random number between 10 and 20 that can be equal to both. So if I just run that again, random dot randint, let's say 10 and 100. You see, it's given me 45. So basically, this is just going to be, and if I type that again, 56, 54. By the way, this is a useful time to mention. On the shell, if you want to just repeat a command, put your cursor here, hit the enter key, and it will copy and paste it to the next line. But as you can see, it's giving us a random number between 10 and 100. So that's quite useful. Now, if you remember, I said that we wanted the health potion to generate a random health value between 25 and 50 and store that in another variable. So here's another micro challenge for you. I want you to create, on another line here, to create a variable called potion health and set that equal to a random number between 25 and 50 using the random module's randint function. So pause this video now and go ahead and try to use the randint function to create a variable called potion health that is between 25 and 50. How'd you get on? Did you manage it? Well, here's how I would do it. I would type on this line, I'd type potion underscore health because, well, first of all, we can't have a space in our variable names. And this is the convention for how you name your stuff, all lowercase with underscores for spaces. And I'd assign that a value, a random value between 25 and 50. So to do that, I need the random.randint function. And to have it between 25 and 50, I give this 25, comma 50. So if you got that, then perfect. But if it was a bit hazy and a bit difficult to understand what happened, just feel free to rewind the last few minutes to make sure that you have a decent understanding of how modules work in Python. Just as a quick overview of how it works, we've imported the random module, and which you can see is the same here. And inside the random module, there are loads of functions, one of which is called randint. So, I mean, we're going to cover functions much later in the course, but I just want you to understand kind of what's going on. So what we're saying is, in the random function, put a period, this function name, randint, which we're going to give 25 and 50, Python's going to get a random number from this, isn't it? It's going to get, I don't know, say 35. Once it's got 35, it's going to stick that value in the box that we've called potion health. So if you understand more or less what I'm talking about, then brilliant. I'm not expecting you to understand the ins and outs of this, but if that kind of makes conceptual sense, then that's brilliant. We've now got a certain amount of health that the potion is going to give our character that we can refer to later on. Phew, I think that's a good time for a break, don't you? So let's have a quick review of what we've done so far in the project. We started this lecture with a brief of this project and what we'll be making. We found out that we're making a health potion that can be used in a game to give a character a random amount of health, depending on the difficulty level. You then went ahead and applied what you've learned about variables and numbers so far to create a variable called health and give the player an initial health value of 50. After that, we decided that we wanted to use a random number generator to help us with making random numbers for our potion to save us coding it all from scratch. So we checked out Python's random module. We had a quick overview of how to look at a module's documentation and also how to import a module into our code using the import keyword. All we had to do was type import and then the module name, which in this case was random. Finally, we used the randint function inside of the random module to generate a random integer between 25 and 50 and stored that value in a variable called potion health. I mean, we covered quite a lot in this lecture, and I'm really proud of how far you've come in such a short space of time. We're really starting to touch on some advanced topics such as module importing and functions, so if all of this makes sense to you so far, then well done, genius. We aren't there yet though. There's still some way to go to finish off our health potion project. In the next video, we're going to find a way of adding together our potion health to our player's overall health, and we're also going to find a way to implement a difficulty system so that a player will get less and less health from our potion when playing on harder and harder difficulties. I'm really excited to finish off our project, so I'll see you in the next video.